So now that we are getting close to the end of season 5, or more specifically the end of the Agreste arc, that means we're going to be learning a lot more stuff about just that whole family. And before that happens, I just wanted to give you guys like my theorized timeline of what exactly happens. Half of this stuff I'm gonna say isn't even like backed up by evidence in the show. It's just like what I feel like is happening or would happen. I mean, if I were a writer on the show, this is probably how I would want the storyline to be. It's just what makes sense. I actually had this theory for a very, very long time. I just never actually talked about it or even like made a video about it. And so I thought if I don't do it now, it's probably never gonna get done, and then it's gonna end up being too late. And by the time I get around to doing this video, we're already gonna know all the information. So I'm finally going to do this.
I hope Adrien has a good Christmas.
A hero.
So starting off, I don't know that this has ever been like directly said in the story, but because Emilie and Felix both live in London, I think that maybe Emilie also lived there. That's where she grew up. But the Solitude movie is actually what brought her to Paris. I also think that Emilie and Natalie were like best friends, and because of this, maybe Natalie ended up like working for Emilie, and so Natalie also kind of worked on the movie just because Emilie was there and like they were working together, if that makes sense. I don't know why I made that sound so complicated, but basically what I was trying to say is that I think that maybe Emilie and Natalie knew each other from when they were little, and they were like always best friends, and so when they grew up, Natalie ended up working for Emilie, like maybe she was like a manager or something. And so when Emilie got the role for the Solitude movie, Natalie went with Emilie, and she was like on set and stuff. Like she wasn't actually in the movie, or she didn't actually have anything to do with the movie. She didn't really work on it, but she was just there like helping Emilie out with everything, if that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, Emilie grew up in London, that's where she lived, but then she got the role in the Solitude movie, and so she ended up going to Paris to work on the movie. I also believe that Timo also worked on this movie. This is kind of confirmed a little bit just because in Soul Crusher, the mayor had, I don't even remember what it was. I don't know, he just had a picture of Emilie, and then there was someone below hers that looked exactly like Kagami but with longer hair, so I think we can only guess that it's Timo. And that is also how they all together, Emilie, Natalie, and Timo, all met Gabriel. Mainly because the Solitude movie is just like mentioned so much, but there's never really like any emphasis on it. So I feel like what they're trying to tell us is like there's more to the Solitude movie than we think. Like everything started because of this movie. Anyway, so as we all hopefully know now, Adrien actually discovered Gabriel. That's the reason that he has his whole brand and stuff. It was all from Adrien. We do know that Andre co-produced the movie, and we don't actually have any proof that Adrien did work on the movie. However, in my theorized timeline, she did. So I think that Adrien needed someone to do costumes for the movie, and she discovered Gabriel, and so he started working on the movie to do costume design. And like I said, that's how Emilie, Timo, and Natalie all met Gabriel. And obviously Emilie and Gabriel were like falling in love, blah blah blah. They got married and they went on a trip, and that is when they discovered the miraculous, and probably also discovered that there were other miraculous besides the two that they found. Gabriel just became obsessed with it, obviously, and just kept looking for them. Since Natalie was like kind of already working with Emilie, in my opinion, it just makes sense that because Emilie and Natalie were close, that is how she started working with Gabriel and helped them try to find the miraculous. So after a while of them looking and they couldn't find anything, I think this is also around the time that Emilie found out that she couldn't have kids. And so since they had a peacock miraculous that they could use to create whatever they wanted, she came up with the idea of creating a son instead of giving birth to one, or just like adopting like a normal person would. Emilie just obviously wanted a son, so that's why she liked the idea of creating one. But I feel like Gabriel was on board with this, and he liked the idea because that meant that Mr. Manipulative Control Freak Gabriel would be able to have a more promising control over his son, which is absolutely terrible. I don't know why, but I feel like when Emilie created Adrien, she wanted Gabriel to stop going after the miraculous. She was like, look, we have a family, let's just stop. We've already searched. Let's just like be a family, you know? But obviously, Gabriel was not listening. He was being very stubborn, and he kept searching for them even when she told him not to. I feel like there's two possible ways that this could go. First of all, I think that maybe Emilie decided to stop helping him. She just didn't want any involvement in it, and so she just let him do his thing and she just like stayed home with Adrien. Or because he just really didn't want to stop looking, she was just like, okay, whatever, I'll continue to help. But either way, that doesn't matter. The thing that does matter is that I think that there was a period in time where everything was okay. Emilie was good, Adrien was good, Natalie was good. Like, everything was perfectly fine. Their lives were going just great. But then I feel like there was probably like a year or two where things went like really, really wrong. Like, everything was good, and then about a year or 2 years before Emilie actually like disappeared, things were just going not right. Everything was just going completely wrong. It was just problem after problem. I believe during this period of time, maybe that's when the miraculous got broken. And that was kind of like the start of like the downfall of everything. Emilie started getting sick and she still kept using the broken miraculous. And I also believe that this may be the time where Timo lost her sight. For some reason, I just feel like Gabriel was the reason that Timo lost her sight to begin with. Because in the show, she said something about, like, you owe me everything.
Don't ever forget again that you owe me everything.
Maybe she said that because he's the one that made her lose her sight, so he kind of does owe everything to her. But also, I think as Emilie started to get even more sick, I think they actually came up with the whole idea of the basement thing together. Well, it was probably Gabriel's idea, but Emilie was probably a big help in it. Like, he came up with the whole, like, casket thing. I don't even know what you would call it, but he came up with that whole idea to put her in there. It's like Emilie was getting sick and she was like, Gabriel, I might die or something. Like, they knew her fate was kind of set. They couldn't really do anything to save her. And so they together kind of created the basement where he would put her when she like died. I mean, she didn't die, she kind of just like went into a coma, but like when that happened, he created the basement, or they created it together, so that way she would have a place to go until Gabriel could bring her back. I honestly feel like Gabriel made a promise to Emilie that he would bring her back. I mean, he says a lot in the show, like, I'm sorry I couldn't bring you back, whatever. Guess who's back again? Because I feel like that last part was also quite confusing. So for anyone that didn't really understand what I was saying, basically what I think is that Emilie started to get sick and they all kind of worried that she was going to die. So Gabriel came up with the whole basement idea in the case that Emilie actually would die. And Gabriel promised to her that if in fact that was her fate, then he would put her in the basement that he created for her, and he would do whatever he could to get the miraculous and bring her back. So the whole idea of him getting Emilie back was actually created prior to her dying. And the reason that I think that he made this promise to her is just because he's always saying, like, I'm sorry. Like, he's telling her sorry as if he made a promise to her that he would always bring her back. Mainly because the basement seems like it took a lot of work and a lot of time, and I'm not sure that he would have been able to do that in the time that he had, because I'm pretty sure that casket thing is the only thing that's really like keeping her alive. So if Gabriel took the time after she had died to make that, I think Emilie would have actually died before he ever got the chance to like put her in there and like, I guess, preserve. So I have a feeling a lot of that was built prior to her actually being gone. And then obviously Emilie went into the coma-like state, and then I feel like, because obviously there was a while in between from when Emilie disappeared to when Gabriel became Hawkmoth, so I feel like during that time period he was just coming up with a plan to try and get Emilie back. And then after he was done and everything was ready, that is obviously when the show started and he first became Hawkmoth.